Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. Dr. Kunovich will be logging on in just a second. My name is Camille McCallum. I will be helping to facilitate the Zoom today. So if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat or to use the raise your hand feature. And I will call on you just to make sure that we stay organized and can answer everybody's questions for Dr. Kunovich. So if you have any questions at all before she logs on or before we get started, feel free to just give me a holler. If you have any questions that you'd like to submit for Dr. Kunovich that we can start with, feel free to just drop those in the chat and we'll start with those. Thanks for being here, everyone. We are just waiting for Dr. Kunovich to log on. She will be handling the question and answer portion of today, as well as giving you some information about the academic portions of SMU, some things that you can expect in your first year and some things to watch out for. So it should be a really informative session today. She really wants to leave a lot of time to answer your questions. So if you have questions that you're thinking of already, please feel free to put them in the chat and I will queue those up for her. And then you can also use the raise your hand feature as well. And I'll be sure and try and get to you to make sure that we are answering all of the questions that we get on the call today. So the chat feature is the primary feature that we'll use to make sure that your questions get answered, but you can also use the raise your hand feature as well. Dr. Kunovich, I see you have made it. We have quite a few, looks like 81 students and families joining us today. So I will go ahead and pass it over to you and give you an opportunity to introduce yourself, as well as kind of give us some starting information to go on. And then we will answer questions via the chat or the raise your hand feature, and I'll queue those up for you.
That sounds great. Thank you all. Welcome to SMU. I know you're probably going to hear that about 1,000 times before you actually start your first day, but I'm excited to have you join me today. I am the Associate Provost for Student Academic Engagement and Success. And really what that means is pretty much all of the academic support services that you will use in your first year at SMU kind of fall under the umbrella that my team is a part of. So the University Advising Center, those staff that you've been meeting with this summer to create your schedule, the Altschuler Learning Enhancement Center and the Writing Center, the physical space where you'll go for peer mentoring, for additional support beyond your faculty office hours, the Office of Engaged Learning for academic enrichment opportunities like the Big Ideas program, Engaged Learning Fellowships, all those things we have centralized under one team so that we can all work together to make sure that you have everything you need. My hope for today is just to find out what questions you might still have and start to answer those, or I can just tell you more about specific programs and how we support students through academic milestones in your first year and the academic milestones in your overall four-year degree plan. I really want this time to be what you need it to be. The reason we really like thinking about these as office hours is because office hours at a university are completely driven by the person who walks in and says, I need help with this today, right? So for the students on this call, I'm hoping to sort of get you comfortable with just ask the question and your faculty will answer to the best of their ability in that moment, or they may say, I need to get more information and I'll get back to you. So that's kind of how I saw today working. So at this point, start using the tools that Camille told you about, or raise your hand and we can just open it up.
We had one question in the chat about mail. So wondering if you're allowed to use your PO box to ship things for move-in.
Absolutely. What you'll find is that Hughes Trigg in the first couple weeks has a dedicated space for a mailing center. So a lot of students will have shipped things ahead of time from Amazon, other retailers, and then you'll just go over to Hughes Trigg and pick it all up and walk it back. Your PO box is also a great way for you to exchange letters from home and to make sure you maintain those fun contacts as well. Harrison, you've got your hand up.
Yeah. So when we start for the fall semester, I guess my biggest question is what questions should we have? Like, where do students typically go wrong with how they start?
That is such a great question. So my advice is that you start monitoring your Canvas user space. What you are going to find is that faculty will start publishing their courses 3 weeks, 2 weeks before the start of the semester. And you will be able to start learning a little bit more about what your faculty expectations are for what books to buy, what assignments to have, and just kind of get in the habit of clicking around in Canvas to really maximize the tools that are built in, right? There are calendar tools, there's communication tools. So students who will take 10 or 15 minutes to watch the OIT how-to videos on how to use Canvas can really improve how they work with the learning management system. For example, you can set up notifications so that you receive reminders to your phone 24 hours in advance and an assignment is due. That's just a really nice backup plan to get an automated reminder from the system in addition to how you might have put it on your calendar or what the faculty are reminding you of. So my first piece of advice is to really spend some time to get to know Canvas, to set up your settings so that you're receiving the notifications in the way that works for you, email, phone. You can also complete your student profile in Canvas so that there's a picture of you, there's your contact information, other information that you might want to share with the faculty. Faculty really appreciate having those profiles set up. It helps us get to know the students before class. So that's the first thing. Really dig into the world that we use to help you stay organized. The second thing I strongly recommend in the first week is that you complete what we call at SMU, the semester at a glance calendar. This is a tool that lays out all the weeks of the semester on one piece of paper, and students who will take the time to put their major assignments onto the calendar and then share that calendar with roommates, family members to show where you have really busy periods of time helps you to plan. One of the things that some students are used to from high school is you have 1 week where you have 4 exams and then you have 3 weeks with nothing due. Let's use those 3 weeks with nothing due to like travel home, to do an errand, like things that are a little bit more distracting. And then that week when you have a lot due, let those around you know, this is my busy time and this is what's going on. That calendar will also allow you to have a good conversation with an academic advisor if you think you need to change your schedule. Sometimes students in the first week will decide they want to change their schedule, and you can only add classes at SMU in week 1, but you can drop classes through week 2. So that's another change from high school, right? But having that filled out will help your academic advisor help you think through, should I change my schedule based on the course content? Harrison, I think that you started to turn off or you opened up your audio again to say something. So I want to make sure I answered your question fully.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That was really helpful. Thank you so much.
Good.
So basically, yeah, just like kind of getting to know Canvas, scheduling everything out, know when your biggest assignments are, kind of plan ahead.
Yes. And if you need to change your schedule, I really want you to have that conversation with your academic advisor.
All right. Thank you.
Sometimes students get advice from other students, and that's fine. Advice is good, but I'd prefer for you not to take action until you talk to the professional advisor who might be able to help think through any unexpected consequences.
Okay. So really utilize the advisor then.
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome.
I've
Hi there,
included.
ma'am.
Who do we have?
Sorry about that. I had a quick question. When do we get our PO box number?
I cannot answer that question. Camille, do you want to maybe put that on our follow-up list, or do you know the answer to that one?
I don't know the answer to that, but off the top of my head, but I will look it up. And if I can find it, I will put it in the chat. And if I can't, then I will send a follow-up.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So I did receive a private question, Camille, but I'd like to answer it to the group. It's around accommodations. So if you had accommodations for extended time, reduced distraction environments during testing, flexible attendance, the office that you need to work with right away is called Disability Accommodation Success Strategies. The acronym is DASS, D-A-S-S. And they will review all your documentation from high school and then work with you to put the accommodation requests in place. We use a system at SMU called DASS Link, where students will then share their letters of accommodation with their faculty based on who you want to share them with, right? So the DASS office writes the letter, they communicate the expectations to the faculty, but the student actually is the one that says, and now I will share this with faculty member A, I will share this with faculty member B. If you haven't already started working with the DASS office and you believe you need to be, please reach out to them this week and get your intake appointment scheduled, because you can do all that while you're at home before you get on campus. And the sooner we get your accommodations in place, the better your start to the semester will be.
We have a few questions in the chat, one being, will the academic advisor help me with my housing situation, or should I get in contact with the housing department after completing the pre-advising Canvas course or the PAC?
Yes, you should contact the relish department, RLSH, for any and all housing questions. And you don't have to wait until you finish your PAC course to contact relish. If you have a concern about a housing assignment or a question about a housing assignment, those are independent of PAC completion. That said, you do have to be enrolled in classes before you can move into your on-campus residence, right? But you can ask relish questions anytime.
Yes, and another question was, when is move-in? And someone answered in the chat, August 16th and the 17th, and those dates are correct for new and incoming students. Another question.
Wait, Camille, can I ask one little caveat to that?
Sure.
For students who are part of some of our spirit groups, like band, for students who are part of some of our scholar groups, such as Rotunda, you are actually going to receive a letter or an email letting you know about a slightly earlier move-in date so that you can participate in the orientation activities. So again, if you are part of a spirit organization, a student athlete, one of the university scholar groups, please connect with the director of those programs and ask them if you have an earlier move-in date. Because the expectation is that you get here a little bit earlier and then you participate in their orientation programs before the university launches Stampede. So Celia, you had your hand up, but then you fell off my screen. So I don't know if you got your question answered or if you want to come back online and ask your question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. I was just going to type it in, but I wanted to ask for transfer students that aren't living on campus, what would be the best way for us to get to know the campus, get plugged in, I guess, get connected with internship opportunities, extracurriculars, just ways to get involved on campus?
Such a great question. So as part of Stampede activities on Friday, we will actually have a special lunch for transfer students or first-year students who aren't living with us on campus. And in that lunch, we will speak specifically to resources and information for students who live off campus to make sure that you're getting that exposure to opportunities. So that's the first thing. You definitely want to prioritize coming to Stampede, going to that Stampede lunch Friday afternoon. And then there are several student organizations that you can join through Campus 360, SMU 360. I suspect that one of your emails from the admissions team, the orientation team this summer has talked to y'all about SMU 360, where you can learn about other student organizations. You can go ahead and indicate your interest in those organizations this summer to get connected on the student side. And then also as part of Stampede, we have something called Night at the Club, which is where students walk through a big fun space and you meet other student directors who can tell you about the different activities. In terms of internship activities, there are two specific places to go right away. The Heggie Career Center, right? You can go ahead and schedule time with someone in the Heggie Career Center to do an orientation, to learn more about the platform called Handshake, where we list opportunities for on-campus jobs, on and off-campus internships. And then the second place that you'll learn a lot more about internship is through your major declaration process and department. Many of the academic departments have internship requirements built into your curriculum. Departments that don't build it into the curriculum still will have a list of opportunities and ideas, right? So the Heggie Career Center is open to anyone, declared, undeclared, whatever major you have. Option A, it's a great one. Option B is once you declare your major, you'll start working with your academic program to know more about internships.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's really helpful and I appreciate your time.
Of course.
We have a question from Peter. He says, can you explain the health insurance plan requirements for incoming freshmen?
Peter, I can do my very best, but the expert on this is probably going to be someone in financial services. But here's what I know based on my limited information. If you have health insurance from your current family situation, you simply tell the university, I have health insurance. You upload the documentation. All is good. Option 2 is you can purchase health insurance through the university and access health benefits through that insurance plan. Every student on campus has to have documented health insurance. So it's either something that you already have that you can show us you already have, or it's something that you're purchasing from the university. This part's very important. If you fail to show the university that you have health insurance, we will put health insurance on your plan, on your bill. So we really need for y'all to pay attention to those emails about how to document that you already have health insurance and you don't need the universities. If you have more specific questions than that, I would really recommend working with financial services, but hopefully that's enough of an overview of the two options. I love that you guys are helping each other out with answers. I will say one of the things about office hours in the fall, and I want to encourage all of you to go to at least one office hour with each of your faculty member is that sometimes the office hours are one-to-one, but sometimes it can be small groups. So I have found that sometimes students are more comfortable coming to an office hour with a friend from the class and saying, hey, we're going to study together. We'd like to talk to you about how we're going to approach our studies. Or, hey, we're going to work on this project together. We'd like to meet with you as a team to talk about it. So those collective office hours are a little bit like this, where the students can answer each other's questions in addition to my answers. Are there scooters on campus?
Yeah.
Yes and no. We no longer have scooters that you can rent, right? Like we used to have scooters where students could use their student ID and rent them as you go. We no longer have those. Some students do choose to bring a certain type of scooter to campus. Again, I need for you to look at the campus policies for what types of scooters. We are a small campus that's primarily residential with lots of walkers. So we do not allow some of the larger scooters on campus that a big state institution might allow, right? So just look at the guidelines for the scooter policy and it would tell you what kind of scooter is okay to have. There's lots of places to lock up scooters and bikes on campus. It is a safe campus in terms of those things, as long as you use your locking device correctly. One of the things that I have learned is that students don't always lock their bike up correctly. And then that bike might get used by somebody else. Skateboards, yes, there are a ton of skateboards on campus. And I'll tell you what, the skateboarders will sometimes forget that some of us move slowly and we don't know that they're coming up behind us. So yes, you can bring a skateboard to campus. I would just please ask that you remember people like me are not very agile. So, you know, use your normal, hey, I'm on your left, I'm on your right when you're on campus. It takes about 10 minutes to walk end to end from campus if you're walking pretty quickly. So, you know, I'm in my early 50s and I can walk from end to end in 10 minutes, but I am walking quickly.
I will put the parking permit link in the chat again for you guys. So if you're looking for parking permits and you have your SMU ID and password, you should be able to go ahead and purchase that via the link provided.
You know, one of the things that I want to make sure the students and the families on the call hear about is something that SMU is really proud of, which is called our early alert system. Students will receive both an early and midterm progress report. This is an opportunity for your faculty to give every student quick feedback on how they're doing in the course in terms of their attendance and their overall academic success. So students essentially are told you're deficient or you're not deficient. Not the best words in terms of motivational, I'll admit, but it really quickly lets you know from the faculty member's point of view, how are things going in the class? And then you get it as one email for all of your courses. So it's really easy to see at about 4 weeks in, how am I doing in terms of attendance expectations, in terms of testing expectations, and then you get it a second time about 2 weeks before the last day to drop a course for the semester. Not only do students receive the early and midterm progress reports, but parents will receive a notification if they've been given an educational release through FERPA that says your student has received their early and midterm progress report. Click here to check on it. Again, I really think that this is a great opportunity to just kind of touch base quickly on all of your classes on how things are going. For students with the early progress report, if you haven't gone to office hours yet, now is a good time to go to office hours. For me, that's kind of a key marker for, have I had a one-to-one conversation with my faculty member? Midterm progress reports are really where you might have to make some decisions around, am I going to stay on all these courses? What can I do to improve my grades in these courses? If I need to drop a course, I'm going to schedule an appointment with my academic advisor to discuss that option. So again, twice a semester, early and midterm progress reports, they show up in your inbox. We encourage you to use them to change direction if things aren't going the way you want.
Dr. Kunovich, we have several questions about what is FERPA and how do we sign it?
That's a great question. So FERPA is the policy established by the Department of Education, which says every student after the age of 18 at a university controls their educational record. But as a student, you are allowed to give other people permission to different parts of your educational record. So Camille, can you find the FERPA link on the registrars? So it's a great opportunity to have a conversation between student and parent, student and support system to say, here's what I want you to have access to. Here is what I want the university to be able to talk to you about. So the student might decide, I want you to have access to everything. And they will say, mom gets access to everything. Person number 2 gets access to everything. Or the student can say, well, I only want person 1 and person 2 to have access to my financial records and access to my conduct records, right? And they will click just those boxes. Again, FERPA is established by the student as to who has the right to see their information, and that then limits what we can and can't talk to parents about, or whoever has the FERPA release. This is a change for a lot of families, right? Where you're used to being able to access your student's educational record when they are in high school. At the university, the student gets to decide. And we really do encourage a great conversation with families about how it will work. Students, if you are having a conflict in a class, if you are having an academic concern, we always want the student to reach out directly to the faculty member or the staff member to try to handle it, to ask for questions, to ask for support. If that process isn't going well, that's when you might ask for a family member or support system to help you navigate those conversations. Or you can always go to the academic skills development team and the ALEC and ask for their advice about how to approach the system, how to approach the situation. But family members, please don't call your faculty. Please don't call your children's faculty, because it's really going to be much more effective. And some faculty will actually tell you that it's their departmental policy that they can't have a conversation with a parent without the student present, without the student knowing. Parents can always contact the Dean of Students office to call, to ask for help, to ask for a way in which to manage the conversation. And I think that's a great resource for y'all to know as family members, that the Dean of Students can help facilitate if you need to ask for help from the university.
Here's a great opportunity to talk about the academic calendar. This question says, do we have 2 weeks off for spring break? And if so, what are the days? Or for Thanksgiving break? And if so, what are the dates?
Oh my goodness. I wish we had 2 weeks off. No, we don't. So the university calendar is already published for this academic year. And in fact, there's even a tentative calendar published for the next year. The one for this year is very firm. So the dates that are listed for fall break, Thanksgiving break, winter break will not change. The dates that are listed for spring break will not change. This part is very important. Even if an older student tells you, oh, you know, fall break is only officially 2 days, but you can take 4, please don't believe them. The university calendar is the official approved class dates. So if we are saying you have these 2 dates off from classes, those really are your 2 dates. Sometimes families get a little confused about when to schedule the flight home or when to schedule the flight home between fall and spring, when to schedule Thanksgiving. We put the final exam calendar also on the website. So if your student knows right now what classes they're enrolled in, what days and times, they can also look at their final exam schedule and tell you and know, when is my last final exam date? If their last final exam date is the last day of final exams, they really need to be on campus that whole time. Final exams last for about a 7-day period. And sometimes students are anxious to get home and they want to move all their final exams to day 1. Students, you can't move your final exams. Your final exams are set by the university. If you got the last day of final exams, that's what you got, the last day of final exams. So that is a place where this first semester, I do often see some confusion about when should I schedule my flight home after fall. So for FERPA, you can do it. You can follow the links that are provided in that how-to.
On the website, it does say that they'd like you to print it out and bring it to the registrar's office with a valid ID. That way they can prove that you are you and you are saying that you want your parents or whoever you're authorizing to have access to this information. So that's something that you can do at the beginning of your time on campus. Oh, someone says in the chat that the school told them that freshmen do not need a car at SMU and that everything they need is within walking distance. And for those out-of-town students, Snyder Plaza is awesome and has everything. So I wonder if you have any comments on bringing a car to campus.
So I'll just share a little personal story. My daughter is also going to college this fall. So we are having this conversation right now to bring a car, to not bring a car. The great things about SMU's location is we are very nearby several shopping areas that you can walk to from campus. Snyder Plaza was identified. There's also an area called Mockingbird Station. Second, as a student at SMU, you receive a public transportation pass so that you can ride our light rail system called the DART, and you can use buses. Finally, we have Uber, like many large cities, and a lot of our students do choose to use Uber to go to some of the locations at night. So a car really isn't necessary in your first year while you're living with us. It'll make your life a little bit easier in terms of managing parking. There are convenient options without needing a car. So I do think that at SMU in your first year, you can be quite comfortable without a car. That said, if you are the type of student who likes to go to different parts of a big city and you want to go into North Dallas and South Dallas and East Dallas and West Dallas to enjoy shopping, to try restaurants, to go to different cultural events, having a car will be more convenient. Right? We are not set up like Boston, where public transportation gets you everywhere pretty easy. Our public transportation is limited. So if you enjoy that aspects of exploring a new city and you see yourself wanting to do that on a regular basis, then I can see why a car is convenient. Parking on campus is difficult, though. I'll be upfront. Everybody's fighting for the best spot in the garage because it's hot and nobody wants to have their car parked out in the open sun. But it's really not necessary in your first year while you're living on campus. Yes, the residence halls stay open during all of our breaks. And fall break, Thanksgiving break, spring break, food and dining services are also open. So religious holidays. So I got another question as like a direct message to me. The university does have and follow a religious calendar. So you already have several traditional Judeo-Christian holidays off on the calendar. However, we have students with a wide variety of faiths. So if there is a religious holiday that you need to miss class for based on your faith, there's a process by which you request to the faculty member to have that day off. You have to make the request in the first 10 days of the semester, and you can work with the office of the chaplain if your faculty member has any questions or if they're a little confused. We do have several students on campus who will use that, particularly if they're going through extended periods of fasting and they have big due dates or big assignments and they just need a little bit of flexibility. So if you have a religious need to miss a class for faith-based practices, first 10 days of class, you have to notify your faculty. And if there's any concerns or questions by the faculty, you can work with the office of the chaplain to get those resolved. So one of the so you guys have lots of questions for relish. I think that Camille, is there also another relish Red, Blue, and You happening later this July?
I will check, maybe so. But I know that they do have there's some more live Q&As where Residence Life will be on. And so you guys can get a lot of these housing questions answered, and that'll cover housing and meals as well.
I mean, some of the questions, like, so there's one that says, do students stay in the same dorm room for the second semester? Yes. Assuming everything's going well between you and your roommate, you absolutely stay in the same room fall to spring. If you are having conflict that you can't resolve with your roommate and you've asked for help with your residential community director, there is a process to ask for a room change, but very few students need to do that. But we do have a process to make that request. You can absolutely keep all of your belongings in your room between fall and spring, and students can access their rooms between fall and spring. Now, dining services is very limited between fall and spring, but your rooms are always accessible to you. And we have a Jan term. So for students who want to take advantage of a short intersession before the start of spring semester, you can come back to campus a little bit early and participate in January term by enrolling in a course. And then many of our students who will go through fraternity and sorority recruitment will return in January to go through recruitment. I do want to use this opportunity to talk about academic success and recruitment at SMU. You will learn through the orientation process for fraternity and sorority recruitment that we have a GPA requirement and a credit hour requirement. Those are not negotiable. So you have to maintain 12 hours and you have to hit the GPA expectations. So please pay close attention to those requirements for January recruitment. So another one-to-one message to me. So this question looks to be about how do you handle when you get sick, and how do you communicate with your faculty? How do you communicate with Relish that you have a health concern? So let's say you're running a fever and you need to miss class. We always recommend that you would send an email to your faculty member that morning and just say, I'm really sorry, I've got a fever today. I need to miss class. Here's what I'm going to do to catch up on missing notes. If you need help from the faculty member, you would put that request in the email. If you have an exam that day, or you have an assignment due that day, it's going to be a much more complicated conversation with the faculty member, right? And you will need to work with them to request an alternative day and time to take your exam. Some faculty have policies in their syllabi which state, here is how I handle missed exams, right? So for example, a faculty member might have 5 exams in their course, and they say to students, you have 5 exams, we keep the 4 highest one. You can drop an exam because you don't like the grade. You can drop an exam because you missed the class for some reason. And that's how they handle missed exams. Other faculty have different policies where they might reschedule a different day and time where you take the same exam just at a later time. A third faculty member might approach it with a different type of exam. Right? So on the day of the exam, they gave one format, but for the makeup exam, they give a different format. So you really need to pay attention to each policy within the syllabus. Again, we're kind of back to that Canvas learning management system. Every faculty member will provide you with a syllabus, and it will state what their policies and expectations are when you need to miss class, for health reasons, for travel reasons, for university excused absences, religious absences, all those things that we've kind of talked about a little bit, faculty will lay out in their syllabi. If you need help when you're not feeling well and you live with us on campus, you would tell your RA or your RCD, and they would be able to help you. And then of course we have the health center. So if you're really not feeling well, you would schedule an appointment at the health center that day and ask to see one of the doctors on campus. I think I answered your question, but if you have others about health, if that student would message me again, I'll try to clarify.
Here's a question, slightly financial aid related. When will you receive an invoice for tuition and other fees for the fall semester? And I'm thinking that would be after you've registered for classes, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that is correct. Once you register for your classes, once you make all of your decisions about parking, about your food pass, once we know your fees, you receive your bill. Fees are partially determined by what classes you enroll in. So you may not receive your final bill from the university until a couple weeks after the start of the semester. So for example, while most of our fees are covered in the general fee, you have a few classes with particular labs that have additional fees associated with them. I'm going to use a couple minutes to talk about some more academic milestones that I think are really important to have on your radar. SMU wants to see students graduate in 4 years. It's very important to us. We have implemented several new tools to help students with their planning. If a student wants to graduate faster than 4 years, you can do that with our intersessions and summer course offerings. Because we are talking about tuition and bills and such, you pay the same amount as a student for tuition for 12 hours as you do for 18 hours. So we want to encourage you to be enrolled in 15 hours per semester. If you're enrolled in 15 hours per semester, you will easily be able to complete your degree requirements in 4 years. So 2 milestones that I always like to give students to think about is, have you completed 30 credits at SMU in your first year by the end? Have you completed all of your foundation requirements in general education, academic writing, critical reasoning, quantitative reasoning, right? Those 3 requirements are necessary to kind of get done, get over with. And then many students will have figured out what they want to declare as their major by the end of the first year. But there's also a lot of students who will wait until the 3rd semester or the 4th semester to declare their major because of the degree requirements to declare, right? We have subset requirements that you've been learning about from your academic advisors to declare certain majors. So you may need 3 semesters to complete that sequence of courses before you declare. So 30 credits is what we're hoping that you have by the end of your first year. And a really solid plan for major declaration is another goal.
Sheri, could you talk about tuition costs for winter break or summer session, and maybe include some info about those intercession courses or TAUS or study abroad in there as well?
Absolutely. Yes, there are additional costs related to what we call the intercessions courses. We offer January term, May term, and then in the summer, I call it choose your own adventure, because there are a lot of different course formats. There's the 11-day course format, there's the 30-day course format, and there's the 60-day course format in the summer. Each of those course experiences are priced at a different rate based on how many credits you enroll in, right? Some students are enrolled in 3 credits, some students are enrolled in 4, some in 6. So the cost, the best way to look at the cost estimator is to go to the Intercessions website, and they actually provide you with a tool to put in, hey, I'd like to take 6 hours in the summer. I'm going to be on main campus, or I'm going to take 6 hours out in Taos. And the charge is a little bit different if you are going abroad, if you're in Taos, or if you're on main campus. You do not have to use intercessions to graduate in 4 years. We are absolutely committed to having students graduate with a major in 4 years without using intercessions. That said, many of our students do choose to complete multiple majors and 1 or more minors. Sometimes when you're trying to complete multiple majors and you don't want to take 15 credits every semester, or you're not able to take 15 credits every semester, you may need to enroll in the intercessions courses to accomplish your goal of multiple majors. The tool that we implemented recently called Degree Planner will help you see what is necessary in terms of intercession planning and how you can avoid intercessions if you want to avoid it, or how you can build it into your schedule. A lot of students want to go abroad, but they don't want to go abroad during the school year, right? They don't want to go abroad fall or spring. They want to go abroad in the summer. So when you're building out your abroad experience, you want to go ahead and say, okay, when I'm abroad, I'm hoping to complete these common curriculum requirements, like my second language. Who doesn't want to complete their second language requirement in Italy with the Italian program, right? So you would in Degree Planner indicate, that's my plan. I'm going to do the Italian program the summer after my second year, going to satisfy second language, and then you build out the rest of your schedule for the 4 years with that information in mind. Our Taos campus is an amazing domestic alternative to main campus during the intercessions. A lot of students like to go out there in January because they will add on some skiing on the weekends in between coursework. Students also really love May and August term in Taos, New Mexico. The weather's fabulous. You're in the middle of a national forest. The courses are very different than what you would experience on main campus. There's more field trips. There's more field-based education. We offer courses in social sciences, humanities, engineering, a wide variety of options on the Taos campus. If you take summer courses at main campus, you can live on campus. What we do is we assign all of our students to the same residential commons so that you have more of a community experience. And we typically have students in 1 or 2 residential commons in the summer. And then the rest of campus is used for other groups to come do camps and short-term coursework, not by our own students, but by other students. Are there additional fees for housing during those other terms? For sure, there are additional fees in summer. I would have to look on the website to know about housing fees for January and May term. I cannot answer that question off the top of my head. I would really encourage you to go to the Intercessions website if you're excited about that opportunity and use their cost calculator, because the cost calculator will also allow you to put in if you have any types of merit-based scholarships, any other types of financial aid, and how those might be eligible to be included in reducing the cost of those experiences. You should also let your academic advisor know if you want to use those sessions, because they can really help you think through what are some courses to utilize. As a faculty member that has taught on main campus in Jan term and May term, I love it because I have you all day long. And that means that I get to do field trips and we get to go into the city of Dallas and explore different neighborhoods, different communities. I'm a sociologist, so I like to take students into the field and really see social groups in their neighborhood environments. So January and May allowed me to do that, where during the school year, when I only have you for 50 minutes, we wouldn't have time to do field trips, right? So a lot of faculty like using those intercessions for those types of courses.
We have about 7 minutes left. Are there any things that you want to make sure that we cover, Dr. Kunovich? Things you want to make sure we talk about?
I really just want to highlight the importance of a syllabus. Again, you will hear older students talk about syllabus week as, oh, you don't need to go to class. Don't worry about it. Ignore them. They're wrong. We need for you to go to class in the first week. I need for you to really look at your syllabus, make sure you understand the policies, the expectations. It's your first semester. You're going to find that each faculty member has a slightly different approach and variation to things. And reading the syllabus is where you learn what do my faculty expect and where you can start to build out your own schedule and your own plan for being successful. Those syllabi allow you to kind of think ahead. Hey, in week 5, I've got 3 things that are due, and I've got these other expectations on me in terms of work, in terms of family. How am I going to manage that week, right? And if you're thinking about it in week 1, you have plenty of time to look for solutions. But if you don't realize it until the Monday before, it's a little bit harder to be successful. So my first piece of advice is that for all the families on this call, I really do want to encourage you to ask your student about when they have periods of time that have a lot of coursework due. Think carefully about scheduling trips back home. Think carefully about when you schedule your trips to come see them on campus if you're able to do that. Family weekend is a great time for families to come. We love it when families come. A lot of faculty try not to have assignments due the Monday and Tuesday after family weekend, but sometimes it just happens. So having those conversations with your students, I think, are super helpful. And then the third thing, as new students, really having those conversations with your academic advisor if you need to change your schedule. We are spending a lot of time looking at your schedules now that you're completing them, right? If you finish the pack, you've been able to fill out your whole schedule. We are going to take a look at them and make sure the choices you make sense for your stated pre-major based on the conversations that you had with your advisor. But we know that y'all can be changing your schedules all semester long. So if you're not telling the advisor, hey, I just decided to drop this class, you haven't had an opportunity to hear their point of view for why you should stay in the class, for what resources are available to help you still be successful in the course. We want you to stay enrolled in all your courses. And I think that's something else that sometimes students get excited when they get to college, because you're like, oh, I get to drop classes I don't like. Well, yes, you can, but it doesn't mean you should. And that's where those conversations, I think, are super important.
We have a question in the chat saying that we have a student who's in marching band and they'll be having to travel for away games. And so just want to make sure they know how to approach that with their professors. So any word on that for our student athletes?
Yep, that's a great question. So in the same way that we have a university policy for religious excused absences, we also have a university policy for university events. If you are a student athlete, if you are in one of the spirit organizations, Mustang Band, marching band, cheer, pom, all of those are excused absences for travel. If you are in club teams, if you are in an intramural teams, those don't fall under that policy, right? The only student activities that fall under the university excused absence policy are the officially recognized varsity activities. So you will receive a letter from your marching band director in this case, letting your faculty know what dates you will travel. The student is responsible for sharing that letter with the faculty member and then having a conversation about how to reschedule any missed assignments or exams, right? It's the important part with both your DAS accommodations letters, your religious excused letters, your requests for travel is a conversation with your faculty member early, right? Because the sooner we know about it, the sooner we're able to think through solutions and to try to find a pathway for you to manage it all.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Kunovich. I am going to go ahead and put my email in the chat for you guys. So if you have some extra questions that you couldn't think of now or just didn't get to get out in this session, please feel free to just email them to me and I will be happy to find you some answers and send those out. So I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the hilltop this fall. So that's coming up very, very soon. But I'll have my email down here in the chat so you can save that and feel free to send us any questions.
Thank you all. Have a great rest of the
Thank
summer.
you.
And if you haven't gotten enrolled, please finish your enrollment. The sooner you get enrolled, the sooner you get those classes that you need and want.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I'm going to just keep the Zoom open. So if anybody needs my email, they can grab it.
Thank you, Camille, for getting this organized and set up. We had great turnout today.
Yes, it was great. It was great. Glad to see so many students and families. Thanks, guys. Oh, sorry. Let me put it in the chat again. Here's my email if you need it, and feel free to reach out to me. And if not, we will see you in the fall. I say in the fall, but I feel like the fall is now. It's happening. It's happening.
Fall is less than a month away at this point.
All righty.
Thank you again.
That was great. Okay, I will see. I'll look at my Zoom report and see if we can get those people's emails and see if we have their emails and we can send them just something.
Oh, the people with the additional questions?
No, just that everybody that was here.
Oh, yeah, I think, do you know how to get the chat report?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if I can provide anything else, just let me know.
No, that was great. Thanks, Sheri. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll see you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.